This Monday, Finance Minister P. Chidambaram will unveil what is called the Interim Budget. This will be the 10th budget for the UPA regime. It comes 2 months ahead of the general elections. I am Rajesh Mahapatra, the Executive Editor of Hindustan Times, and with me I have Gaurav Choudhary, my colleague and the Chief of Business Bureau. We will be talking what you should expect, what you could be looking forward to in the interim budget. Gaurav, this is an interim budget, not a vote on account, not a full-fledged budget. What are the three different things? How are they different from each other, and what people should be looking forward to?
Interim budget, as the name suggests, is interim in nature. It's temporary in nature. It will enable the government to withdraw money to fund its expense over the next 4 months till such time a new government is in place and a parliament passes a new budget. As you would know, for any money to be withdrawn from the Consolidated Fund of India, the government requires parliamentary ratification. Without a government in place, because the Lok Sabha elections will be on, there has to be some approval in place for the government to withdraw money and fund its regular expenses like paying salaries and other things. That is why every year during an election, every time during an election year, a vote on account is passed. Technically, the difference between a vote on account and an interim budget is that a vote on account by definition is only an expenditure statement, whereas an interim budget over the years an outgoing government has presented an interim budget which is slightly more than a vote on account, because it uses the opportunity to make also a receipt statement, that is, if it were to come to power, what are the kind of policies it would unveil or roll out over the next 12 months and the kind of revenues that it expects. So, vote on account and interim budget, while used synonymously in a literal form, technically there is a difference in the sense that the interim budget is also gives a receipt payment account. The full budget this year will probably be laid out in sometime in the last week of June or in the first week of July, when a government is in place.
So, in the past we have seen Finance Minister presenting interim budgets and announcing quite a few things. It is a bit more, they have gone a little away from vote on account and announced things which many people have often said have been done keeping an eye on the elections. So, it is not just the receipts side where they could be stating the intent of what they would do, but it also is an opportunity for them to, if they wish, to go for a few doses of populism here and there. Are there such expectations from this budget?
Well, there are always expectations in any budget ahead of an elections. But the difference between this year's interim budget and the previous years, for instance in 2009 or even the year before, last time before that was in 2004, especially in 2004 when Jaswant Singh, the then finance minister, presented the interim budget, the economy was on an ascendancy. The government coffers were bloating, were full. So there was enough elbow room within the government for announcing poll SOPs, or some kind of a stimulus package as we had seen in the 2009 interim budget, where the economy had plunged into a serious slowdown, and a stimulus was the key word across all governments because of the great crash of 2008, and the government had enough elbow room to fund a stimulus. In this year's case, we are fighting to contain a fiscal deficit within a certain phase, because within a certain limit, because the shadow of a downgrade by sovereign credit rating by credit rating agencies is casting a very long shadow over the economy, and the finance minister cannot sacrifice fiscal rectitude for some poll gains. If he does, then a downgrade, if it were to follow, will have very serious consequences. So this time around, it would not be very prudent to expect, or it would not be, we should not expect too many poll SOPs. There could be a minor tweaks here and there, but we should not expect too many poll SOPs, primarily because of the reason that he does not have enough elbow room fiscally.
So, in a way, if one has to go by the past record of Mr. Chidambaram, he would be and he would remain mindful of the fiscal challenge that the government faces. And the economy is in a slowdown mode. Growth is likely to stay under 5%. The near-term outlook is not very encouraging to expect a sudden turnaround or a significant turnaround that could really buoy tax collections. So, and that would mean that for someone like Mr. Chidambaram, one should not expect, even if there were a few areas on the spending side. There have been talks about few new social sector schemes in health and education, but those would be marginal tinkering. Is that something that you think?
I do not expect any major new schemes to be announced.
Major new schemes. So in a way, it's economy stupid. Don't expect anything big to happen in the interim budget.
That's right.
It would more be about business as usual.
It's to be fair, it is very it would be unwise to expect an interim budget to list out policy options, more so in a slowdown year like India. So probably what the finance minister would do is make it sound or appear more like an economic survey, which is a 10-year economic report card, and also like a poll manifesto, that if we were to come to power, this is our statement of intent. If we were voted back to power, this is what we are going to do. But as of now, we are not doing it because we are not in power yet. It's going to be a statement of intent, and it's going to actually trumpet the achievements of the government over the last 10 years. And to be fair to the government, there have been a few achievements to talk about. For instance, despite the recent slowdown, the average GDP over the last 10 years growth has been 7.6%, and that is unprecedented. No 10-year block in independent India has delivered a 7.6% growth on an average.
So to sum up, in all likelihood, the finance minister will use this opportunity of presenting an interim budget as an opportunity to showcase the achievements of the UPA regime, a report card,
Yes.
a statement of intent,
Yes.
and if one could say, to put the numbers in a perspective that makes UPA's regime look better.
That's right. And Chidambaram has a reputation of being a fiscal hawk. He's not a fiscal dove. So you cannot expect Chidambaram to open up the purse string just because the party or the government is going into polls. Chidambaram would rather stick to the red line that he has fixed for containing the fiscal deficit, the budget deficit within 4.8% of GDP, even if it comes at the cost of pruning expenditure for some flagship schemes, even if it comes at severe criticism from some of his own colleagues, which as we have seen. But he would not cross the red line. If it were some other finance minister, probably we could have expected some poll sops to come along. But with Chidambaram, I don't think we can expect too many of these.